Hi everybody, my name is Brianna. Welcome back to my channel. It's been a really long time since I posted on YouTube. I used to post a lot of gymnastics related videos back when I was in high school, but I've decided that since I published 3 books that I want to kind of focus my content more on book related stuff. So if that's something that you're into, you're definitely going to want to stick around. So today I'm going to be talking about how I self-published 3 young adult books by the age of 23 years old. And so here they are. I figure I'll give a little bit of a pitch for all of these before I get into the video. So this is the first book that I came out with. I released this one in February 2021, and I was 21 years old when I released it. It's called Stay Strong. And so this one is about a 10-year-old boy whose little brother is diagnosed with leukemia, and he has to move towns and kind of deal with adult matters at a young age. And so he has to grow up watching his brother go through such a hard time, and it's actually inspired by a true story in my own family. My cousin was diagnosed with leukemia when she was 10, and this was pretty much the experience that she had as well. Except in the book, the 10-year-old boy, his little sister is also involved in an accident that is basically his fault, and so he does go through a lot, but I had a lot of fun writing this. Despite how heavy the topic is, I think that this is definitely one of my favorites that I've written. So this is the second one. It's called The Other Half of Me. I released this one 6 months later. This is the only thriller that I have. So this one is about 2 twin brothers whose parents are killed in a car accident, and the accident is suspicious in nature, and so they end up getting separated, and the one brother ends up taking a cross-country hitchhiking trip to get back to his brother. And along the way, he starts to learn more about his parents' suspicious deaths and kind of who's involved and all that. So again, I had a lot of fun writing this book, and I definitely want to write more thrillers in the future. And this one is by far my most popular book. And this one is my newest release. It's called Where the Sun Won't Shine. This one is about a 17-year-old girl whose boyfriend dies by suicide, and it's told in before and after perspectives, and so you kind of get to actively grieve him as the book goes along. But he was also a drummer in an up-and-coming band, and so the book kind of tackles depression in celebrities, because there's a lot of, what do you call it? There's a lot of there's a stigma about celebrities and depression. People think that they have everything they could have ever wanted. What could they possibly be depressed about? So I decided to write about it, and this one is by far my favorite that I have written thus far, and I am obsessed with this. So I've been writing for as long as I can remember. I think I wrote my first short story when I was about 5 or 6 years old, and I used to grab my markers and crayons and I would staple construction paper together and I would just write for days. I used all of my spare time just to write a bunch of short stories, and I would gift them to my friends and my family and pretty much anybody else who was interested. And so I've always known that I was meant to be a writer, and I've always wanted to one day see my books in print. And so knowing that that's a reality for me now is just the coolest thing. But for the longest time, I didn't know that self-publishing was even a thing. I always thought that traditional publishing was the only way that you could go. And so I decided when I was about 13, I decided to start publishing my short stories on booksy.com. And I actually still post stuff on there occasionally. So I'll leave a link in the bio if you're interested. And so through there, I started meeting a bunch of friends and I started getting lots of positive feedback. And I actually started to really build a following on there. And so I think that really drove me forward and really helped keep me going. And so through there, I started to discover that some of my friends were self-publishing their books. And some of the companies that I started checking out, they were costing about $6,000 per book. And I knew that there was absolutely no way that I was going to be able to afford that. And so I thought, traditional publishing is going to have to be the only way that I can do this. And so when I was about 17 or 18 years old, I started submitting my first book, Stay Strong, to some traditional publishing companies. And I started getting rejection letter after rejection letter after rejection letter. And it really started to discourage me. I just thought, what could possibly be wrong with this book? Why doesn't anybody want it? Is it because of my age? Like, am I too young? Do I need to keep working more on this book? And so I kept working on it for as long as I could, and I started getting more feedback from people, fixed everything, and finally a friend on booksy.com told me about Amazon Kindle Direct Publishing, otherwise known as Amazon KDP, and he said that he self-published his book for free. And so I checked it out because at first I was like, there's no way that you could do this for free, right? And so I went on and I looked and I thought, oh my God, like, that is something that I really want to do. And so that's when I started to do a bunch of research and figure out how I could make this possible for myself. Aside from Amazon KDP being completely free, there were tons of reasons why I decided that self publishing would be the right thing for me. And honestly, the biggest reason was that I get to keep 100% of the creative freedom. So, a lot of traditional publishing companies might make you change the ending or change something along the way that they don't like. And, sometimes I get that. There might be something in the plotline that doesn't make sense that they let you know about. But I think a lot of the feedback that I got online really helped me to finish all three of my books, and I didn't really feel like I needed to change anything else. And so I really like that I get to say that this book is 100% mine, and all three that I have written, I have designed the covers, I have formatted them, I have produced these books, and so I get to be really proud of myself. And another thing that I like is that I get to stick to my own timeline. Traditional publishing companies sometimes can take up to 2 years before they release your book, and whether or not they sign you on to another contract to publish another book is completely up to them. And so I like that I can publish whenever I want. Once I think that my book is done, I can publish and it'll be up within 24 hours on Amazon. And I really like that. And the other thing that I like too is that I get to keep more of the royalties. And with traditional publishing companies, there's usually a whole team associated with your book. So there's your marketing people, there's your graphic designers, there's your editors, and there's a whole team of people that are going to get a percentage of your book's royalties. But I am all of those people. I do everything for my book. And so Amazon does take a percentage. I make 60% royalties on my paperbacks, and I make 70% on my ebooks. And from what I've heard, with traditional publishing, I would only be making about 10 to 15% of my royalties. So that is huge to me. Even though a traditional publishing company might get you more reach, I feel like I have good enough marketing skills to get my books out there. I think the skill that becomes the most important when you self publish is your marketing skills. Because with self publishing, you only have yourself. You don't have a whole marketing team unless you've actually hired one. And so fortunately for me, I actually majored in marketing in college, and I am a marketing manager full time during the day. And so through the years, I've learned so much about marketing. And honestly, I want to say that you should never underestimate the power of social media. So I feel like a lot of people don't think about how powerful it can truly be. And you can really use social media to your advantage because you're going to be reaching people where they're spending most of their time. So the first thing that I did when I decided to self-publish was to create a Facebook page. I made an Instagram page for myself under a business page, and I also created a TikTok. And TikTok was kind of just starting to come out around that time, and I honestly underestimated it as well, but it's so quick and easy to grow on there, and so I would honestly recommend hopping on as many trends as possible. I try and create a monthly social media content calendar, and I try to post as consistently as possible. So for me, I would probably recommend posting about 3 to 5 times every week, and try using Reels to your advantage because Instagram really pushes Reels towards people, and you never know how many people you'll be able to reach. And when you're on Instagram, you're going to want to set your page up as a business page because that way you'll be able to view all your analytics, and that's really going to help you understand what you need to work on and what is working well for you. People are also looking for value in your content, and they're not going to want to feel like they're being advertised to. So one of the things that I would recommend is, of course, posting promotional posts about your book, but not making that every single post. So I would recommend posting something inspiring that happened to you that day or posting an achievement. So if you got your book in a bookstore, definitely post about that. And if you read a book that you really enjoyed, try posting about that too, because people aren't just going to want to follow you for your book. They're going to want to follow you for you. Next thing that I did was I started to learn as much as I could about graphic design. And I know that I'm somewhat good at graphic design, but for me, it's very hit or miss. But I knew that I wanted to design my own covers. And if that's not something that you're interested in, I would definitely recommend checking out a freelance website like freelance.ca or .com or checking out Upwork. I use Canva to design my covers, and if you've never heard of it, it's a completely free graphic design platform. There is a premium version as well that costs a little bit of money per month if that is something that you're interested in. But for me, I personally think that the free version is just as good. And if you're planning to design your own covers, you're going to want to use a stock photo as your background photo. And there are some available for free on Canva, but personally, I use a website called pexels.com, which is also completely free. And there's a few other ones that I've used for references as well. One's called Unsplash and the other is called Pixabay. There are options to pay for stock photos if that's really what you want to do. So I would recommend checking out Adobe or iStock, and I'll leave all the links to those in the description. But personally, I find that Pexels has some pretty great images, and that's where all of mine are from. Another tip that I have if you're planning to self-publish is to start opening yourself up to criticism a little more. And the way that I did that was to start posting my writing online. And that's not always the best way to go, I find. You do open yourself up to the risk of plagiarism, but honestly, I haven't had too many issues with Booksy.com. So try posting there or on Wattpad or any other writing websites that you're able to find and just start trying to build a following on there. Now that you have your social media accounts set up and your cover design situation figured out, it's time to move on to editing. I personally used a beta reader for my own books, which they basically just read over your book and it's an unbiased opinion from a stranger. Whereas an editor is more looking for spelling, grammar, plotline, all that kind of stuff. And so if that is a weak point for you, I would highly recommend hiring somebody to edit your book. For me, I didn't really feel like that was necessary, and so I started searching for a beta reader just to proofread my book. There are lots of places to get beta readers if this is something that you're interested in. You can join forums on Goodreads, or you can also join Facebook groups dedicated specifically to beta reading. You would just need to post a little bit about your book and maybe even the cover if that's done, and try and draw people in, and they will let you know what they think. Having an unbiased opinion is honestly so helpful because you can give your books to your family and your friends, but they're going to tell you that it's the best thing that they've ever read because it's you. But you honestly need that unbiased opinion from a complete stranger because they're not worried about hurting your feelings. And sometimes you need to be told that something needs to change. And so I thought that that was a really helpful thing for me. Now it's time to actually upload your book to KDP. If you're planning on publishing both a paperback and an ebook, it is two separate processes, but Amazon will eventually link the two together. Once you have everything you need in KDP, so your manuscript, your title, your tags, your cover, all of that stuff, you'll click publish, and it can take up to 72 hours to go live in the Amazon store. A lot of people seem to think that after you've hit the publish button, then your work is done, and sadly, they are mistaken because that's where marketing really comes into play. You'll need to market your book probably a few months before you decide to release it to build up a bit of a hype, but after the book is published, there's still so much more work to be done. One of the things that was really helpful to me after I published my book was to reach out to local media and write a quick press release to get them to do a story on me, because it's completely free to do that, and chances are they're really going to want to talk about you. If this is an option for you, I would also recommend reaching out to any local bookstores in your area to see if they'll carry your book, because chances are, at least for smaller bookstores in my area, they're really big on local authors, so it's definitely worth asking. So I think I covered just about everything for self-publishing, but if you have any other questions, definitely feel free to leave a comment down below and I will definitely get back to you. My books are also going to be linked in the description if you really want to check them out, and thanks for watching. Bye.